Oh, you need to write utensil the other day. Well, I'll get your writing utensil. I'll get you through at least part of the period. Huh? There you go. Look at Lydia Craft coming through for us. Okay, you guys are going to need your Chromebooks today. You guys get those closed, please. Put those off to the side. Like I said, hopefully we can get done. All the other classes, we had 10 minutes to spare. So we can get moving through this. We should be able to finish up. I mean, there are, it may seem like there's a few more questions than what we've had in the past. I don't know if that's in fact true, but this is certainly not a longer discussion. We needed two more back here. Okay. So what we're looking at here, folks, it's a time period that we refer to as the interwar period, kind of like an interstate. If you've driven on I-69 recently, if you have, it probably feels like you're drunk driving. It's really just avoiding potholes, but it's in horrible shape. Yeah, right. But an interstate highway is called that because it connects two or more states. We're using the same kind of idea here with the interwar period, connecting two time periods here. We're going to get into the actual war itself starting tomorrow. But before we can get to that point, we need to have a pretty solid understanding of what's going on in the time period between the two world wars. World War I, when it was fought, obviously wasn't called that. Nobody knew that we'd have another one of those wars. People simply referred to it as the Great War. And I think, if you had talked to those individuals who lived and who fought through that, the idea that just in, another 15 years that we'd be getting ready to fight another world war would have just seemed absolutely nuts to them. And that's really why the Treaty of Versailles that was put together at the end of World War I, that's why it was put together in the way that it was, in an effort to try to avoid any further wars of that magnitude. All right? Unfortunately, what we're going to see, though, and this gets into that journal prompt that was up there when you came in, is that peace treaty, instead of creating an environment where we would be free of war, it does the exact opposite. It actually creates an environment where it's very easy for people to get their feelings hurt, to get angry, and for another war to emerge. And so what I want to look at through today is to look at 4 countries. We're going to do a focus on 4 countries and what is going on in those countries all during this time period. So all 4 of these countries, it's all going on at the same time in their respective countries. We're going to look at us. We're going to bring the U.S. into this. Obviously, we'll look at us at the end. But we're going to start off by looking at the 3 countries who are going to make up the alliance that we're going to fight against. So Germany, Japan, and then Italy. Very good, very good. All right, you probably read the questions. There you go, all right? Remember all that. Okay, so I think we have to start with Italy because their part of the story is going to come, real quick. I mean, if you look at the year here, the Treaty of Versailles is 1919. And Italy is getting into the story in 1922. Now, Italy fought in World War I for 3.5 years as an ally to Germany. They spent the vast majority of the war buddied up with Germany. And then, once the United States got into the war, and it became clear that Germany was going to lose, guess what Italy did? Yep, they flipped sides, and they ended up joining up with the United States and their alliance. So at the end of the war, Italy, emphasis on the air quotes, is a winner. But they sure look like a loser, let me tell you. Okay, their fields have been destroyed. Their factories are destroyed. And the people of Italy in World War I, dealing with famine and massive unemployment. They are in a bad shape. And it's into that void that we get this guy, Benito Mussolini. Now, he's important to know, if for no other reason, that he is going to be a bit of an inspiration for Adolf Hitler. And Benito Mussolini fought for Italy in World War I. He's frustrated with how badly Italy has taken a beating in this war. And he believes that he is the right man to bring Italy back. He viewed himself as the next Julius Caesar, which should tell you everything you need to know about this man's arrogance. No, what ends up happening to him is that he and his wife are arrested, hung upside down, and then shot to death. Potato, you know, it's all death in the end. All right? But before he meets that sticky end, Mussolini wanted to project this image that he was all that is man. He liked to be photographed with his shirt off, but he was always standing like this, sucking the gut. I am Mussolini. Now, he preferred to be referred to as Il Duce, or the leader. You know, you didn't walk up to him and be like, "What's up, man?" You know, you walked up and you said Il Duce. All right, this was a guy. What he wanted more than anything, listen, most important thing for this was not the benefit of the people in Italy. The most important thing to him was power. And in his mind, the best way to do that was to convince the people of Italy that they were the best in the world. That being Italian was something to be not just proud of, but to be really, really proud of, right? And he brought with him this philosophy. This is part of question 1 here, called fascism. This is what Hitler is going to embrace. And fascism is all about nationalism. Now, look, nationalism's not a bad thing. Nationalism is patriotism. That's good. Pride in your country. Yay. Go USA. But you can take it too far. And when you use that pride to justify doing things that are just evil and wrong, then you have crossed a line. That's kind of what Mussolini's doing here. He wants the people of Italy to be convinced, not just that they love Italy, but that they are superior to all others. There are elements of fascism that include racism, sexism. You see those elements certainly coming through when Hitler gets a hold of it. But, something you would typically see with a fascist dictator like Mussolini: big parades, loud music, flashy uniforms, big flags. This idea that we have to have big military parades to show our might and how great we are. It's all about convincing the people of the country of how great they are. Right? Now, he's never going to get to the level that Hitler did. But he's definitely the first and definitely an inspiration for the man that we're going to talk about. Right? So let's get into Germany. And question 2 goes right in to the journal prompt that I just had up. Treaty of Versailles gets signed. Germany's on the losing end. But let's try to think back. Just think of different punishments that peace treaty leveled on the people of Germany. Can somebody give me one? Gotta get rid, gotta destroy every single German submarine. It was a source of immense pride for Germany. They had to get rid of every single one. Awesome. Absolutely. What does that mean? The Allies, especially France, gave the Germans a bill that, look, killed all our people, destroyed all this land, time do you pay for it? And we did the math last year. today's money is over $1 trillion. I mean, it's just ludicrous. But that was the expectation that you will pay for. Now, did you have a question? Do you have one? Yeah, no. No, they were able to keep a bit of their military, but they had to kind of way down. Again, that's a huge source of German pride that we're just going after. So you guys have already mentioned these. I just kind of want to throw these up here so you can answer question 3. These are all good. I might also add to this list. This is question 3, by the way. Add to this list, and I think this was a real hit. I mean, this is like, let's knock you down and let's have you on the ground. I think the kick while they're down is that there was an actual part of this treaty that Germany was required to sign that said, we, Germany, take sole responsibility for this war. It is all our fault. That's just obviously not true. And if you only want to blame one other group, blame Serbia. They shot the guy. They shot that archduke. Blame Austria. They're the ones who started the alliances by declaring war on Serbia. Blame Russia. Blame France. Blame Britain. Blame us. It took us 3 years to get in the war. Blame us. I don't know. But the idea that Germany has to take all the blame, again, it's a kick to the German pride. And so, what happens to Germany? Well, they force the king to run. And here comes the U.S., here comes France, in to tell them how they should run their country. They're not even called Germany for a period of time. They don't even get to keep their name. They're called the Weimar Republic for a few years. Right in the name. It should tell you, no longer is a king in charge. Now, they're going to elect their leaders, just like U.S. of A. Keep that in mind. You never know who you elect. Never know who you elect. You can see where I'm going. Right? Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. Right. So they're a democracy now, which we think is great, but maybe not so much. And we talked about, Austin brought up those reparations, a huge bill. What do you think that's going to do to the German economy? You add this to the Depression, and we have an economic collapse. I want to show you a couple of photographs. The first of which is a little German boy. This was taken in 1927. I want you guys to tell me what he's doing. This way. Looks like he's playing Jenga. Yeah, right. I've heard bricks, stacking blocks. Yeah, I mean he's playing blocks. I used to play this when I was a kid. Except those aren't blocks. Right? It's money. Stacks of German money. Stacks of German money. So the fact that he's playing this with that German money tells you what? Doesn't mean he's rich. Somebody say stole it. No, what this should tell you is that this money is so worthless that go play. Go play with the stacks of paper money over there. Let me show you this graph here. Show you what I'm talking about. And I said this a little low, I apologize. But what we've got here is a chart showing you the value of German money. Over here in 1918, again, you can't see it, I apologize. But over here in 1918, what that means is that $1 was roughly the same value as 1 German mark, which is German. So they're about the same, which is what you want. We're good there. So that means if Bradley goes over to Germany with $5, it's roughly going to be worth 5 marks over there. It's all about the same. That makes sense? Okay. So over the course of the next 7 years, because this is 1925, you can see the devaluing of the German money, to the point where we go from $1 equals 1 German mark to $1 equals, I would need 1 trillion of these to get the step. So if Bradley went over with $1 from the United States and exchanged that dollar for German money, he would get 1 trillion German marks. Now, you'd probably feel really good, but all you really have is $1. I mean, it's just like, it's a ridiculously devalued system of money. And to show you another photograph here, it became much more sensible for you to simply just burn your money rather than go buy wood. This is Germany. And I have students all the time that will say to me, Mr. Klein, like, how could somebody like Adolf Hitler, how could the Germans elect somebody like Adolf Hitler? Well, number one, do I think that they thought, oh, this guy probably going to massacre 6 million Jews? I mean, you know, it's not, I guess it's not really, I don't mean to tell like a joke, but I mean, like, obviously they didn't know that. You know, all they saw was a guy coming forward and saying, y'all are burning money. We can do better than this. If you will elect me, I will bring us back. All right, I will bring Germany back to where we were. Just trust me, man. Yeah. Just trust me, man. So, I mean, that's the thing I want to stress here is that Hitler, you know, I think people think, guy this evil, he had to have come in and taken, seized power. No. He's elected to that position of power. And once he gets in there, this kind of gets into question 3 here. What is he going to do to bring this German greatness back? Well, the first thing, one of the first early laws that Germany is going to pass, something called the Nuremberg Decrees. This is question 3 here, 2 things Hitler does. Nuremberg Decrees, this is Hitler coming out and saying, our country is in bad shape because we've been weakened, and we've been weakened because we have inferior people living in this country. That those inferior people must be gotten rid of. And those inferior people are the Jews. Right? So this law was the first step. This law did nothing in terms of a Holocaust, but it did eliminate German Jewish freedom. It did eliminate the ability for a German Jew to own a business. This is the first step to what we know is going to come down the line. Another thing, and this is where I think things kind of get interesting here. The Treaty of Versailles specifically said that, you know, Addie brought this up, Germany, you can't have an army. Okay? So I think somebody else mentioned that Germany had to give up a bunch of their land. So what does Hitler do? He comes in and he says, screw Versailles. Rebuilds the army. Immediately starts rebuilding German submarines. Once he's got that army built back up, he uses it. Starts going out, grabbing, you know, old parts of the German Empire, Austria, Poland, Czechoslovakia. Every step of this way, he's like that. I don't know if any of you guys babysit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pick on Emily Betts here because she works over at Aftercare. If you've ever been over to the elementary at Aftercare, imagine pure, unadulterated anarchy. And it's not her fault. I mean, she's actually got the older kids, right? You know, God forbid, you know, those poor ladies who have my youngest son's group, all right? It's just not. But, you know, a lot of times those kids, they'll push you a little bit. See how far they can push you, right? So you bite back. I bet none of you have ever done that to a teacher. Maybe. You know, I did in elementary school. Push them a little bit. Are they going to bite back? No. Push them a little bit. That's all Hitler's doing. He's that annoying little 5-year-old. I'm going to push them. I'm going to push them. U.S., Britain a little bit, see if they bite back. Well, you didn't say anything when I built my submarines? Okay, I'm going to do a little something else. You didn't say anything when I took over Austria? Well, let's go Czechoslovakia, see what happens. No, nothing. Okay, Poland? No, we're good. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. You know? And by the time somebody decides to stand up to him, this guy controls half of Europe. You know? So are we, is there some blame here shared by us for this guy coming to power? I think maybe, yeah, a little bit. All right, so let's kind of switch gears to Japan real quick. Kind of get forgotten, right? They're the third part of Hitler's alliance here. I don't have a whole lot to say there. Just kind of want to set the stage for Japan in this war. Honestly, prior to the 1920s, Japan's sort of a backwater, outdated country. Now they have a rich history. It goes way back, but leading up to this time, they're pretty backwater. And honestly, a lot of the reason for that is simply because they don't have anything. They have zero resources. If you've ever seen a map of Japan, it's a bunch of islands with a mountain chain running right down the center. They barely have enough land to farm, much less natural resources. So they have been relying on other countries to give them those natural resources, especially things like iron and oil, things that are needed if you're going to build up a military or build up industry. So the United States is the #1 trade, and I sort of feel like 4 and 5 go together here. Just sort of draw an arrow, connect them. You don't have to answer it separately. We've been selling them iron and oil. And then we get into the 20s and the 30s. The Depression hits us. And we're not doing that anymore. We've got other things to worry about. We can't just keep selling these resources to Japan. Now, Japan could have sat there and said, we get it. You're going through a rough time. We know. But instead, they took it as a personal insult. That we were excluding Japan on purpose. So that's where we started to see some of the anger towards the United States start to build. And, it's once it starts, it's sort of going to develop as a snowball. It's eventually going to lead, of course, Pearl Harbor. Right, now, Japan has, this gets into question 6. Japan doesn't have us anymore to rely on for natural resources. So if they're going to continue to get those, they've only got one option. Like, guess what that is? They're pretty far away. Now we're good. China and Korea. But they're not going to buy this. Wouldn't it be easier just to take it? So that's where Japan, this is really where Japan starts to build the empire, and we'll listen to this over the next couple of days. FDR, after Pearl Harbor, gives this really famous speech. It's December 7th, 1941, the day which will live in infamy. The United States was attacked by the Empire of Japan. So here's this empire. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't look all that big to you, but it's actually pretty sizable. And it's a pretty brutal takeover, especially when we get to China. And I'm looking at a town right around here called Nanking. The Japanese went into Nanking, China to take that region over. It wasn't just a gunfight where lives were lost. Actually, 300,000 Japanese were killed in that battle. And the Chinese refer to this still as the rape of Nanking. Pretty brutal. 300,000. 300,000 Chinese. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave things here, but before you go, I want you guys to look at one thing. All right, if you look at this map showing the empire, when we finally do get into World War I, we've got about half of our troops in Europe. We've got the other half over here, fighting the Japanese. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a ton of these little orange dots on that map. Each of those dots is an island. And what the United States had to do to try to beat the Japanese was what we call island hop. They would go to an island, beat the Japanese, hop to another island, beat the Japanese, hop to another island, beat the Japanese. Maddening. Took forever. Took forever. This is why when we're done with Germany in May of 45, we still got another 6 months to fight the Japanese. This is why something like an atomic bomb that might end the war right then and there starts to enter into people's minds. So here's what we're going to do, because we're going to run up against it. I get going and I talk over my time here. Hold on to this for tomorrow. We're going to answer the back questions tomorrow. It won't take us very long. So bring this back tomorrow so we can finish it. And then we're going to get into the idea of Pearl Harbor and start to take a look at that. Yes. Yes. I think 4 and 5 go together. Just kind of look at it all together. Yes. Landon?
Wait. No, it's a ghost. No, it's just that radiation.
Yeah.
Give me some of the
Can I have one of those new plan worksheets?
Loading. Which one do you want?
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.